The first thing I notice is the smell: vanilla, cloying, chemical, the kind of perfume that invades your sinuses and sets up camp. It drifts in through the cracked front door at 6:12 a.m., riding the humid Texas dawn like a chemical weapon. I'm standing there in a robe that's seen better decades, coffee sloshing over the rim of my world's okayest uncle mug, steam curling up into my eyes, and there are two Cedar Ridge PD officers on my porch looking like they drew the short straw. Behind them, Linda Hargrove stands in full Lululemon regalia, blonde ponytail so tight it could tune a guitar, her smile sharp enough to shave with. "Mr. Thompson," the younger cop says, shifting his weight, "we've received a report of unauthorized individuals using the community pool after hours." I blink. Linda doesn't blink. She just tilts her head, the way a cat does before it pounces. "Some people," she says, voice syrupy with venom, "don't understand that Silver Pines Estates has standards." Rewind 6 months. I'm Jack Thompson, 56, retired construction litigation shark, 22 years of chasing crooked developers through depositions, discovery motions, and the occasional federal indictment. I buried my wife, Emily, 8 months ago after a 3-year siege by cancer that left me hollowed out, a man-shaped hole wearing grief like a second skin. Our old house in Austin was a mausoleum, every corner holding a memory: her laugh in the kitchen, her humming in the shower, the way she'd fall asleep on the couch with a book on her chest. I sold it, took the proceeds, and bought Lot 19 at Silver Pines, a corner property with a direct view of the $500,000 community pool that sparkled like a promise I was desperate to believe in. $820,000. A premium. Worth it, I thought, for silence, for sunrise, for a place to rebuild a life that felt like it had ended the day Emily took her last breath. Mornings became sacred. I'd sit on the patio with my coffee, watching the early swimmers cut through the water, their strokes rhythmic, meditative, the splash, and pull the closest thing to prayer I could manage. The grief counselor had said, "Find a ritual, Jack. Something that anchors you." This was it. Then summer arrived, bringing Carlos, my brother's kid, 16, sharp as a blade, bound for MIT in the fall. Emily and I never had children, too busy building careers, then too busy fighting for her life. Carlos was the closest we ever got to legacy. He flew in from Phoenix, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, grin wide enough to light the tarmac. He'd work at the local hardware store, save for textbooks, and keep his old uncle from talking to the walls. One Tuesday in June, Carlos invites 2 friends from work, Malik and Javier, polite kids. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The kind of manners that make you believe in the future. 90 minutes of cannonballs, laughter, the occasional splat of a belly flop. Harmless. Joyful. Then Linda Hargrove appears poolside like the Grim Reaper in yoga pants. Linda, 48, Hargrove Premier Realty, Silver Pines HOA Vice President, married to City Councilman Brad Hargrove, clipboard clutched like a holy relic, athleisure so loud it needed a mute button. "Guest passes," she announces, voice ricocheting off the tile. HOA bylaws, Section 12B, more than 2 non-residents per week requires pre-approval and registration. I blink. 8 months here, never heard of guest passes. They're family, I say, keeping my voice level, the way you do when you're talking to a bomb. Linda doesn't do level. Pool privileges suspended for Lot 19, pending compliance review. The kids towel off, confused, embarrassed. Neighbors suddenly fascinated by their phones. The chlorine sting in my eyes has nothing to do with chemicals. That night, Linda posts the suspension on the community app, bold red letters. Lot 19, non-compliant guest activity. At the next HOA meeting, held in the basement of the clubhouse that smells like old coffee and fear, she sighs theatrically. Some residents struggle to adapt to our established culture. I sit there, knuckles white around a styrofoam cup, realizing I've been marked. And Linda? She just poked a bear who'd spent 2 decades learning exactly where the bodies are buried in the fine print. 3 days later, certified mail, thick as a brick. Compliance hearing, 48 hours notice, scheduled for Emily's birthday, the day I'd planned to bring sunflowers to her grave, sit in the grass, and tell her about Carlos, how proud she'd be. Cited violations? Trash cans visible from curb, measured, photographed, false. Lawn height 3.7 inches, measured 3.1 with a ruler and a witness. Failure to foster neighborhood harmony through appropriate guest management. I laugh. Bitter, the kind that burns. Then I do what any self-respecting ex-lawyer does. I read every page of the Silver Pines Charter until my eyes bleed highlighter. Page 52. Reasonable accommodation shall be provided for multi-generational family gatherings and extended family visitation. Linda's guest policy? Illegal. Her 48-hour notice? Illegal. Holding the hearing in her personal dining room. Lavender candles choking the air like a bad spa? Illegal. Thursday night. I walk in with a banker's box, every violation tabbed, highlighted, annotated like a Supreme Court brief. Linda opens with a PowerPoint, actual slides, preserving our shared vision, each bullet a dog whistle about certain lifestyles, outside influences, property value threats. When she finishes, I stand, slow, deliberate. Before we vote, I say, voice steady as poured concrete. Let's discuss Texas Property Code Section 204.010, notice requirements, venue neutrality, and the charter clause Linda just violated. The room temperature drops. Treasurer Grace Nguyen, numbers wizard with a spine of titanium, stops scribbling. President Harold Brooks, retired principal, shifts like the chairs on fire. Linda's cheeks flush Merlot. This language is outdated, she snaps. Funny. I reply, sliding the charter across. Original documents require 75% supermajority to amend. Anyone seen a ballot? Crickets. She pivots, weaponizes my grief. Perhaps Mr. Thompson is overwhelmed by recent loss, struggling to adapt to community norms. The room inhales. I gather my folders, heart thundering, but voice ice. We'll reconvene when proper procedure is followed. Vote goes 4-2 to uphold the ban. Grace and Harold dissenting, but the fracture lines are glowing. That night, I open the laptop I swore I'd never touch again. Public records, Hargrove Premier Realty filings, municipal contracts, bank transfers, the works. By 3:17 a.m., I've got the first breadcrumb. Linda was exclusive sales agent during Silver Pines build-out. Incentive packages that smelled like week-old fish. Linda escalates, neighborhood watch patrols, clipboards, cameras, violation notices for garden gnomes, Christmas lights in July. But Lot 19 gets the deluxe package. Drive-bys at 2:14 a.m., photos of my garbage cans from 6 angles, warnings slipped under visitors' wipers. Carlos jokes she's writing a scrapbook, but I see the slump in his shoulders, a kid who shouldn't have to whisper when friends come over. Then Grace corners me after my morning walk, eyes darting like we're in a spy flick. Jack, she whispers, the amenity budget doesn't add up at all. Not even close. I install cameras, legal, discreet, start logging Linda's patrols, timestamped, geotagged. A harassment diary even Kafka would applaud. Texas law requires written warnings before fines. Linda's verbal bans and instant suspensions. Lawsuit bait. The pool showdown, Friday family hours, Carlos and friends dripping wet. Linda storms in with 2 clipboard commandos. Exit immediately. They comply, but she follows them to my driveway. Voice climbing octaves about people who don't fit our community values. I hit record on my phone. Cite the specific bylaw, Linda. She rants on camera. This isn't about rules, it's about standards. 3 neighbors step out. Mrs. Patel, the Martins, phones up, live streaming Linda's meltdown to Carlos's 3,000 followers and climbing. Emergency board meeting, tie vote. No censure. But Grace slips me an envelope thicker than my grief. Construction invoices, budget projections, and a $700,000 hole big enough to drown in. Linda's nuclear option, city code enforcement, filed Monday. Inspection Friday. Carlos's graduation party. 20 relatives, tamales, laughter. The first time my house felt alive since Emily. At 2:17 p.m., code truck rolls up. Inspector Ruiz, weary, clipboard in hand. Linda smirking behind him like a Bond villain. I roll out a banker's box of permits, plans, certificates, every nail accounted for. Carlos live streams. Y'all, the HOA just crashed my grad party. 2 hours later, Ruiz pronounces the house, textbook, actually compliments the attic insulation. Linda demands he check the garage again. Voice cracking, live stream chat exploding. Lock her up. That night, Grace brings the kill shot. Email chain. Linda to Sunset Builders. Subject, confidential amenity upsell, explicit profit split on inflated budgets. $2.1 million budgeted, $1.4 million spent, $700,000 vanished. Linda's personal accounts showing deposits timed like clockwork. Ongoing contracts, landscaping, pool, all 35 to 50% above market, kickbacks funneled through shell invoices. Linda wasn't enforcing rules. She was protecting a gold mine. We go full Ocean's 11, Grace on forensics, Harold on optics, me on law, Carlos on viral. Strategy. 1. Criminal referral, DA white-collar unit. 2. Civil suit, restitution plus damages. 3. Governance reform, transparency bylaws. 4. Community education, residents armed with rights. We file public records requests. Linda must comply or obstruct. Either way she bleeds. She counters with character assassination, Facebook posts about my grief-induced paranoia, whispers I'm suing neighbors, dog whistles about preserving our demographic. Emergency board meeting. Her proposal, $1,000 fines for disruptive oversight. I dismantle it live, Texas property code citations flying like shuriken. She corners me in the parking lot, phone still recording, offers to cover my landscaping if I drop it, then threatens Brad's City Hall connections. Bribery and intimidation on tape, gift-wrapped. Next morning, 6 a.m., cops again. Linda filed false report claiming I threatened her. I play the parking lot audio. Cops leave Linda shaking on her driveway, warning her about misuse of police resources. She goes scorched earth, pool pump sabotaged, for $1,200 damage, office windows smashed, coordinated calls to my old firm claiming mental breakdown. But every retaliation is another nail. Detective Larson, DA investigator, subpoenas 5 years of records. Linda's real estate license suspended pending review. Brad resigns amid cover-up leaks. Mandatory community meeting, gymnasium packed, news cameras, 94 households. Carlos live streaming to 180K. Linda plays victim, polished tears. I fire up the projector, budget versus actuals, $700,000 hole in red, email confessions in 28-point font. Crowd gasps like a horror movie jump scare. Linda cracks. If Jack wasn't obsessed with my pool enforcement against his nephew, none of this. Translation. She targeted Carlos for being brown. Detective Larson stands. Charges filed. Fraud, embezzlement, mail fraud, conspiracy. Jim erupts. Residents lining up with their own horror stories. Mrs. Patel delivering the mic drop. In 60 years, I've never seen someone work harder to destroy the community they claim to love. 6 months later, symmetry sweeter than Emily's sunflower lemonade. Linda pleads guilty, $922,000 restitution, license revoked, Brad out of politics, Sunset Builders barred from city contracts. Recovered funds. $450,000 eliminates dues for 3 years. $350,000 upgrades playground, trails, community garden, feeding the food bank. $122,000 seeds the Emily Thompson Engineering Scholarship. Carlos' first recipient, tears in his eyes as he accepts. New bylaws. Every expense over $500 public. Resident Oversight Committee, annual independent audits. Grace elected president, Harold treasurer, me volunteer compliance czar, turning swords into plowshares. The pool, once a battleground, now hosts Saturday splash parties, kids shrieking, neighbors swapping recipes, the water sparkling like it did the first morning I believed in sunrise again. Carlos, home from MIT, cannonballs in, surfaces grinning. Aunt Emily would have loved this. He's right. We didn't just win. We built something Emily would have danced in, barefoot, sunflower crown and all. But here's the question I still wrestle with at 3 a.m. when the house is quiet. Was Linda evil, or just terrified of losing the pedestal she'd built on other people's money? Does the system reward the Lindas until someone bleeds to expose them? And when is righteous revenge just another word for justice? Drop your thoughts below. Was I right to go nuclear, or should I have walked away for peace? And what's your HOA nightmare? Because somewhere out there, another Linda is sharpening her clipboard, and another Jack is about to discover the fight he didn't know he had left in him.